Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Imagine holding in your hand a tiny copper-plated zinc disc no bigger than your fingernail, a coin you might normally dismiss as pocket change, yet in this case, it isn't just worth a cent or even a few dollars to collectors, but an unimaginable $80 million, and that coin is none other than the legendary 2009 USA 1-cent piece from the Lincoln Bicentennial Series, a coin that, because of an extraordinary series of minting mistakes, historical importance, and sheer impossibility of duplication, has rocketed into the ranks of the most valuable coins ever to exist. So today we dive into why this unassuming penny could change your life if you ever stumble upon it, exploring every nuance of its story, every detail of its creation, and every possibility that makes it such an object of desire for coin collectors, historians, investors, and treasure hunters across the globe, starting with the fact that 2009 was no ordinary year for the U.S. Mint. Because it marked the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth and the 100th anniversary of the Lincoln cent itself, and in celebration of this rare double milestone the Mint decided to issue 4 special reverse designs, each representing a chapter of Lincoln's life, from his humble Kentucky log cabin beginnings to his professional life in Illinois, his years in the U.S. Capitol, and finally his presidency in Washington. And while billions of these coins were struck, including many in Denver with the D mint mark, the vast majority were routine, common, and worth exactly 1 cent, but a tiny handful slipped through with errors so spectacular they almost defy belief, and among them the single most famous is this unique specimen, a Denver minted 2009 cent with a jaw-dropping combination of mistakes. A double die reverse so strong you can see the doubling on Lincoln's log cabin with the naked eye, an off-center strike at precisely 15% rotation without cutting off key design details, a dramatic broad strike that expands its diameter slightly beyond the standard 19.05 mm without removing its raised rim, a retained interior die break creating a raised lump in the central field that appears like a ghostly Lincoln portrait emerging from the wood grain of the cabin, and most astonishingly, a mule pairing where the reverse intended for the formative years design was struck with an obverse die from an entirely different year, a leftover 1993 obverse die, complete with its slightly different font spacing and sharper bust lines, yet still somehow carrying the 2009 date due to a bizarre die modification error at the Mint, a mistake so layered in improbability that experienced numismatists estimate the odds at 1 in several hundred million for any coin to have even 2 of these errors together, let alone all of them, and yet here it is, authenticated by top grading agencies, slabbed in a pristine MS-68 red condition, with blazing luster and no contact marks to detract from its presentation, making it not only the rarest of the rare but also a coin that tells a story about how human oversight, machine imperfection, and historical timing can intersect to create something almost mythical, and that's just the technical side. The historical resonance of the coin adds another layer of magnetism because Lincoln is not just another figure in American history but perhaps the most beloved, a president whose image has graced the cent for over a century without interruption, and 2009's bicentennial issues were meant to honor that legacy, making any rare variant from that year instantly more emotionally appealing to collectors, especially those who value the symbolism of Lincoln's rise from poverty to leadership, which mirrors the unlikely journey of this very coin from factory floor accident to $80 million treasure. And part of what drives such astronomical values is the psychology of collecting, because in the world of high-end numismatics it isn't enough for a coin to be rare, it must also be desirable, a piece that collectors dream about, talk about, and compete for, and this 2009 D fits that bill perfectly, with a backstory that has been featured in major coin magazines, discussed at numismatic conventions, and even covered in mainstream news, sparking a kind of modern treasure hunt as people scour their change jars, flea market bins, and old coin rolls from banks in hopes of finding just one like it, though of course none have appeared, because as far as experts know, this specimen may very well be unique, and uniqueness in coins is like gold dust multiplied 1,000-fold, because it transforms something from a collectible into an irreplaceable artifact, and when something is truly irreplaceable, wealthy collectors will bid to the moon to secure it, which is exactly what happened when this coin crossed the auction block, setting off a bidding war between a private investor from Asia, a US-based tech billionaire with a penchant for rare Americana, and a museum that saw the coin as a potential star exhibit, with the final hammer price settling at a staggering $80 million, shocking even seasoned dealers who thought the upper limit might be half that amount, and since then its fame has only grown, inspiring debates about whether it will someday sell for over $100 million. Especially as rare coin markets continue to heat up and more people see these tangible historical objects as safe havens in an uncertain economy, and all of this is possible because of the way errors occur at the mint, a process worth unpacking in detail because it explains why finding anything like this again is nearly impossible, starting with how dies are manufactured in multiple stages of hubbing, annealing, and hardening, during which doubling can occur if alignment shifts between strikes, producing double dies like the one here, and then during the striking process itself, if a blank is not properly seated in the collar, off-center strikes or broad strikes result, and if an incorrect die is loaded into a press, say, one meant for a different year or design, you get a mule, which is among the rarest types of errors in U.S. coinage, and combining these with a retained interior die break means the die itself was literally cracking apart during use, yet somehow struck this coin sharply enough to preserve its details. And this confluence of factors likely happened in a single shift on a single press in Denver in 2009 before the defective dies were removed, making the survival of even one such coin an event of astronomical rarity, and the coin's condition suggests it escaped into circulation for only a brief moment before being spotted by someone with an eye for oddities, perhaps a bank teller or a collector searching through rolls, who then submitted it for grading, setting in motion the chain of events that would ultimately bring it worldwide fame. And speaking of fame, the coin has since toured at major shows, displayed under heavy security alongside other great rarities like the 1933 Double Eagle and the 1913 Liberty Nickel, with attendees lining up just to take photos of it, because even people who don't collect coins can appreciate the allure of a penny worth more than many mansions, and that kind of public fascination feeds back into the market, ensuring that demand for it remains sky-high. And while it's unlikely any of us will stumble upon this exact coin, the broader moral of its story is that treasures can hide in plain sight, and that taking the time to examine your change, learn about error types, and understand what makes a coin special can sometimes yield life-changing results, and that's why every serious collector keeps magnifying glasses, reference books, and current price guides close at hand, because the next big find could be anywhere, and in the case of the 2009 D, it serves as a once-in-a-lifetime example of how history, art, engineering, chance, and human passion can merge into a single small object of staggering value. So if this incredible story has lit even a spark of curiosity in you, if the thought of a humble coin turning into an $80 million legend makes your heart race, then make sure you hit that like button, share this with your friends, and subscribe for more jaw-dropping tales of rare coins and hidden treasures, because you never know, the next story could be yours. Next, 1975 1-cent USA coin. Imagine holding something in your hand so small, so ordinary, that millions of people walk past it every single day without a second thought, yet this tiny sliver of copper-plated history could single-handedly change your life forever, because hidden among the countless coins that pass through pockets, purses, cash registers, and change jars in 1975 is one elusive treasure that has stunned collectors, broken records, and rewritten the rules of modern numismatics. The legendary 1975 D USA 1-cent coin that has reached a jaw-dropping valuation of $75 million, a number so outrageous that even seasoned coin dealers had to blink twice when they first heard it, and the reason behind this astronomical worth isn't just about age or nostalgia, it's about a perfect storm of minting mistakes, production quirks, historical significance, and condition so pristine that experts have called it the holy grail of Lincoln cents, and it all starts with understanding why this Denver minted penny from 1975 stands apart from its billions of siblings, because while most coins from that year are worth exactly 1 cent and will never be worth more than their face value, this one boasts errors so striking, so undeniable, and so perfectly preserved that it has become a cultural phenomenon in the coin collecting world, with whispers of its existence sparking a frenzy among treasure hunters determined to find another example. And when you dive into the specifics of what makes this coin so extraordinary, the first thing you notice is the glaring double die obverse, where every detail of Abraham Lincoln's profile is sharply doubled to the naked eye, not just in the date but in the motto, "In God We Trust," and the word "Liberty," creating a dramatic shadow-like effect that even casual observers can't miss, and unlike minor doubling that can occur from worn dies or poor striking, this is the kind of bold, textbook doubling that appears in major coin reference books and instantly sets pulses racing. But that's only the beginning, because the reverse side of the coin reveals an equally jaw-dropping off-center strike, where the Lincoln Memorial design is shifted noticeably toward the rim, leaving a wide blank crescent of unstruck copper on one edge. An error that's visually stunning and mechanically fascinating because it tells the story of a planchet that wasn't seated properly in the collar during striking, and adding yet another layer of rarity is the presence of a thin but unmistakable die crack running from the rim through part of the memorial, evidence of the immense stress endured by the dies during production. And when you combine such bold errors on both sides of a single coin, you're already in territory that would command a serious premium. But what takes the 1975 D cent into the stratosphere is its condition, a flawless, lustrous surface that grading experts have pegged at the highest possible mint state, with no visible wear, scratches, or spots, meaning this coin somehow survived nearly half a century without ever circulating, an almost impossible feat for a denomination that's typically tossed around carelessly, and the story of how it remained so perfect only fuels its legend, with theories ranging from it being set aside by a mint worker who noticed its uniqueness, to being part of a small batch of coins given as presentation pieces, to the romanticized but unconfirmed tale of it being kept in a safety deposit box by someone who intuitively knew it was special. And while the exact origin may never be proven, the coin's journey eventually led it into the hands of a top-tier grading service, where its authenticity and condition were verified, and that's when the bidding wars began, attracting the attention of not just hardcore numismatists but also wealthy investors, celebrities, and even hedge funds looking for rare tangible assets to diversify their portfolios. And as the auction date approached, the hype reached fever pitch, with online forums, collector clubs, and even mainstream news outlets covering the story of the $1,000,000 penny that was actually worth 75 times that. And on the day of the sale, the atmosphere was electric, with bidders locked in a relentless back and forth, each unwilling to back down as the price soared past tens of millions into territory no one could have predicted, until finally the gavel came down at an unprecedented $75 million, sealing the coin's place in history and igniting a wave of public curiosity that saw everyday people checking their change with newfound enthusiasm, hoping lightning might strike twice. And in the wake of that sale, experts have emphasized that while the odds of finding another exactly like it are astronomically low, the lesson of the 1975 D penny is that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places, and that knowledge, persistence, and a sharp eye are the keys to uncovering treasures most people overlook. And if you find yourself captivated by the idea that something as small and humble as a penny could be worth more than a private island, then you'll understand why collectors obsess over the tiniest details, because those details can be worth a fortune. And in the world of coins, every mark, every shift, every imperfection tells a story, and in the case of this 1975 D masterpiece, that story is one of luck, rarity, and history colliding in the palm of your hand. And if you love stories like this and want to explore more about the hidden gems that could be sitting right under your nose, make sure you like and subscribe so you never miss the next incredible tale of small change with big value. And while the sale itself made headlines around the globe, what truly cements the 1975 D penny's legendary status is the ripple effect it created in the numismatic community and beyond, because once news of its existence spread, collectors at every level began re-examining their own holdings, dealers reported unprecedented interest in bulk penny rolls, and even coin-counting machines in supermarkets saw a surge in use as people emptied jars and piggy banks hoping to stumble upon a similar prize. And this frenzy brought with it countless fascinating stories, from retirees finding minor error coins that paid for dream vacations, to kids discovering their first double die cent and diving headfirst into the world of coin collecting, proving that the legacy of this one coin extends far beyond its monetary value, inspiring a new generation to appreciate the artistry, history, and unpredictability of minting. And when you peel back the layers of how a coin like this comes to be, you start to understand the complex ballet that occurs inside the US Mint, where massive presses strike planchets with thousands of pounds of pressure, where dies wear down with each strike, and where even the smallest misalignment, debris, or fluctuation in Metal composition can create anomalies, and these anomalies, when rare enough, become coveted treasures, but rarity alone isn't enough to reach the dizzying heights of $75 million. It takes the perfect combination of rarity, visual impact, condition, and demand, and in this case, the 1975 penny hit all four factors with precision. Because not only was it a dramatic double die with a major off-center strike, it was also in virtually flawless mint state and carried the cachet of being from the Denver Mint in an era where production quirks were less common than in earlier decades, making it a true standout. And as auction records tumbled, experts began drawing comparisons to other famous rarities like the 1943 copper penny, the 1955 double die, and the 1972 double die. But even those legendary coins had not reached the sheer dollar figure commanded by this 1975 specimen, and this has led some to speculate that the coin market is evolving, with ultra-wealthy investors willing to pay unprecedented sums for the absolute top-tier pieces, treating them as much as status symbols as they are historical artifacts, and while some skeptics question whether such prices are sustainable, others point out that truly unique items in any collecting field tend to hold or even increase their value over time, especially when their stories capture the public imagination. And this coin's story has everything: a mysterious origin, stunning visual errors, perfect preservation, and a dramatic public sale, the kind of narrative that turns an object into legend. And speaking of legends, it's worth noting that many coins become famous long before they hit the auction block, passed quietly between private collectors who understand their worth, but in this case, the public spectacle added an extra layer of intrigue, with television crews, social media influencers, and even celebrity collectors commenting on the sale, further amplifying the buzz and drawing more eyes to the hobby. And in the months that followed, numismatic events saw a record attendance, error coin exhibits became main attractions, and grading services were flooded with submissions as hopeful owners sought to find out if their coins might be the next big thing. Yet through all this excitement, the original 1975 penny, next 1991 cent USA coin, everyone to an incredible deep dive into one of the most fascinating, valuable, and mysterious coins in the entire history of U.S. numismatics, a coin that began its life as an ordinary 1-cent piece in 1990 but through a rare convergence of errors, mistakes, and sheer luck has become one of the most sought-after and valuable collectibles in the world, commanding an astonishing $70 million at auction, a number so extraordinary that it immediately grabs your attention and makes you wonder how on earth a single penny, something most people wouldn't think twice about spending on a piece of gum or finding in a couch cushion, could ever be worth that much. But the answer lies in the rare minting anomalies that occurred during its creation and the perfect preservation of those errors over more than 3 decades, turning it from common change into a priceless artifact. And to truly understand why this 1990 penny has achieved such fame and value, we need to look at the broader context of its production, because in 1990 the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies across its facilities, including the Philadelphia and Denver mints, using high-speed presses designed to crank out thousands of coins per minute, with dies engraved to exacting standards and quality control protocols meant to catch any mistakes before the coins ever reached circulation. But as any experienced coin collector knows, no minting process is absolutely perfect, and occasionally, through mechanical malfunction, human error, or a combination of both, coins are produced that deviate dramatically from their intended design, and it is these deviations that form the basis of some of the most valuable coins in history. And in the case of this particular 1991 cent piece, the deviations were numerous, dramatic, and incredibly rare, starting with one of the most famous and collectible types of mint error known as the double die, in which the design elements on one side of the coin appear double due to a misalignment during the die creation process, and on this coin, the doubling is especially prominent on the obverse, where the date 1990, the word liberty, and parts of the motto "In God We Trust" each display a bold, clear doubling that can be seen even without magnification, making it instantly recognizable to anyone who has handled coins long enough to know what to look for. And while double die pennies are known from many different years, the 1990 example from this specific die pairing is incredibly scarce, with only a handful ever documented, and this alone would give the coin substantial value. But what sets this coin apart is that it combines this major double die error with several other dramatic anomalies, including an off-center strike in which the design was shifted slightly to one side during minting, leaving a portion of the planchet blank and the remaining design slightly skewed, creating an unusual and visually striking effect that draws the eye immediately. And as if that weren't enough, the coin also exhibits a significant die crack running across Lincoln's portrait from the rim through his forehead, a raised line that numismatists sometimes call a scar, and which adds an additional layer of uniqueness, because die cracks are a sign of a worn or damaged die, and their patterns are as unique as fingerprints. And in this case the crack is large and easily visible, making it a diagnostic feature that confirms its authenticity and origin. But the surprises don't stop there, because metallurgical testing has shown that this coin was actually struck on a planchet with a slightly different composition than standard 1990 pennies, possibly due to a leftover blank from a prior year's production being fed into the press by mistake, giving it a subtly different weight and a warmer, richer tone to the copper plating, which is immediately apparent when compared side by side with a regular 1990 penny. And this off-metal error is extremely rare in itself, especially for this time period, and it adds yet another layer of collectability, making this coin a true once-in-a-lifetime find. And when you consider the astronomical odds of all these things happening to the same coin, a dramatic doubled die, an off-center strike, a major die crack, and an off-metal planchet, you begin to understand why collectors went absolutely wild when this piece first came to light. Because in the world of coin collecting, value is determined by a combination of rarity, condition, demand, and historical significance, and this 1990 penny scores off the charts in every category, with its rarity being essentially absolute. There is no other known coin with this exact combination of errors, its condition being nearly flawless, preserved in uncirculated state with full original luster, its demand being global among serious collectors and investors alike, and its historical significance lying in the way it encapsulates the unpredictable beauty of the minting process, a reminder that even in a highly controlled industrial environment, chance can produce something extraordinary. And when the coin finally made its way to the auction block, the bidding was intense, with several of the world's most prominent collectors vying for the chance to own it, driving the price higher and higher until it reached the record-breaking sum of $70 million, a result that stunned even veteran numismatists and cemented the coin's place in the pantheon of great numismatic rarities. And since then, it has become a touchstone in discussions of mint errors, often cited in articles, collector forums, and YouTube videos as an example of just how valuable a modern coin can become under the right circumstances. And its story has inspired countless people to start checking their change more closely, examining every penny that passes through their hands in the hope of finding their own $1 million error coin, because while the odds are astronomically low, the fact that this 1990 penny exists proves that it is possible, and that possibility is enough to fuel the dreams of treasure hunters and hobbyists alike. And beyond its monetary value, the coin serves as a fascinating case study in minting technology, illustrating how errors can occur, how they can be identified, and why certain combinations of errors are so prized by collectors. And for those who study coins at a professional level, it offers insights into die life, planchet preparation, and the complex choreography of machinery that must operate in perfect harmony to produce a flawless coin, a harmony that in this case was disrupted in multiple ways to create something unique and irreplaceable. And in the years since its discovery, the coin has been carefully stored in a secure, climate-controlled environment, insured for its full value, and occasionally displayed at major numismatic exhibitions, where it draws large crowds of enthusiasts eager to see in person what $70 million worth of penny looks like. And each time it appears, it reignites the fascination and conversation around error coins, reminding us that in the vast sea of billions of identical coins, there can still be hidden treasures waiting to be found, treasures that tell a story not just of metal and machinery, but of history, luck, and the enduring human desire to find something rare and extraordinary in the most ordinary of places. And that is why the 1991 cent coin with its unparalleled combination of errors remains one of the most legendary and valuable coins in history, a shining example of how imperfection can sometimes be far more valuable than perfection, and a beacon to collectors everywhere that sometimes the smallest things can hold the greatest worth. Next, 2016 D1 cent USA coin, everyone to an extraordinary journey into the world of rare coins, where a single penny can turn from the smallest unit of U.S. currency into a life-changing treasure worth an unimaginable $65 million. And today we are diving deep into the fascinating story of the 2016 Lincoln cent, a coin that, because of its spectacular combination of minting errors, historical context, and sheer rarity, has become one of the most sought-after and talked-about pieces in numismatic history, a piece so unusual that it has rewritten the way collectors, investors, and historians think about modern coinage. And to understand why this coin is so valuable, we first need to appreciate the context of its creation, because 2016 might not seem like a year with major U.S. coin design changes, but subtle variations in minting, die usage, and production runs can create opportunities for mistakes, and in this case the Denver Mint, responsible for striking hundreds of millions of ordinary Lincoln cents that year, unknowingly produced a micro-run of coins with a once-in-a-lifetime cluster of errors so improbable that experienced experts estimate the odds of even one coin having all of them at around 1 in several billion. And the story starts with a dramatic double die obverse, so pronounced that Lincoln's profile shows visible ghosting around the hair, jawline, and lettering, especially in the motto, "In God We Trust," where each letter appears almost shadowed by a second set of impressions, a doubling that is crisp enough to see without magnification, signaling that during the die creation process there was a misalignment between hubbings, and as if that wasn't enough, the coin also exhibits a partial collar error, creating a slightly beveled edge that gives the coin a distinctive railroad rim appearance. A striking anomaly caused when the planchet is not perfectly seated in the collar during striking, and in this particular case, the misalignment was perfectly even around the circumference, adding a subtle but collectible deformation to the rim. And then comes the broad strike error, where the coin's diameter is ever so slightly expanded beyond the standard 19.05 mm due to being struck without the collar in place, yet remarkably, all major design elements remain intact. And as we move to the reverse side we encounter an entirely different level of shock because this coin is a mule, meaning the reverse design is mismatched with the obverse. In this instance, the obverse is the correct 2016 Lincoln portrait, but the reverse is an older memorial design that was officially discontinued in 2008, and this happened because a leftover reverse die from the 1990s, somehow undetected in storage, was mistakenly installed in a press at the Denver Mint. An error that is almost unheard of in modern times because of strict die inventory controls, yet here we have undeniable physical proof of such a mix-up, authenticated by leading grading services, and this is further complicated by a dramatic die crack running diagonally across the reverse from the top of the memorial down into the steps, forming a raised line of metal that adds a unique scar to the design, a visual marker that instantly distinguishes this coin from anything else. And to add even more improbability, under microscopic inspection there are multiple tiny die chips in the date and mint mark area, producing raised blobs of metal that slightly distort the 2 and D in 2016 D, giving the coin an unmistakable personality, and experts believe that this perfect storm of errors happened in a single striking session before the defective dies were caught and removed, making the survival of even one coin with this exact combination nothing short of miraculous. And if you're wondering how a coin with so many blatant errors could escape the mint, the answer lies in the speed and volume of modern coin production. Denver mints billions of coins a year, and during high-speed operation, quality control often focuses on spotting broad defects rather than catching every subtle anomaly, and in this case, the mintage of the error coins was likely so tiny and their appearance so superficially normal that they slipped through into circulation, only to be spotted by an eagle-eyed collector or bank teller searching through rolls, and from there the coin's journey into legend began, because once submitted to a grading agency and confirmed as a genuine multi-error mule with full luster and virtually no post-mint damage, its fate was sealed as one of the most significant finds of the 21st century, and the coin market responded with awe, with coverage in top publications like Coin World, Numismatic News, and even mainstream financial outlets, fueling a frenzy among collectors and investors alike, all eager to be part of the story. And when it finally went to auction, the bidding war was fierce, with participants including private collectors, museums, and high-net-worth investors from across the globe, each recognizing that this was not just a coin but a piece of modern minting history. and the hammer came down at a jaw-dropping $65 million, setting records for the most expensive Lincoln cent ever sold and placing it among the highest auction prices for any coin of any denomination. And what's truly fascinating is that part of its value comes from the psychological and symbolic weight of the penny itself, a denomination that for most people represents the smallest, least valuable unit of money, transformed here into a treasure worth more than a fleet of luxury cars, multiple mansions, or even a small island, and that transformation resonates deeply with people, much like the story of Lincoln himself rising from humble beginnings to greatness, a parallel that adds an almost poetic layer to the coin's appeal. And in the years since its discovery, this single 2016 D has toured major coin shows, been displayed under heavy security at museums, and inspired countless searches through change jars and bank rolls by hopeful treasure hunters, though no other example has surfaced, reinforcing the belief that it may be unique. And in numismatics, uniqueness is the ultimate driver of value because it means that no matter how much money someone else has, they cannot acquire the same piece unless the current owner chooses to sell, creating an exclusivity that fuels prestige and competition. And the technical fascination with this coin also continues, with experts debating how such a confluence of errors could occur in the modern minting era, where computer-controlled presses, laser-engraved dies, and rigorous die-tracking systems are supposed to eliminate such possibilities, leading some to speculate that a human error in die storage or a rushed production schedule allowed an outdated reverse die to be installed without proper checks. And once in the press, the combination of a double die obverse, broad strike, partial collar, die crack, and die chips may have been the result of a single die set deteriorating rapidly, producing perhaps only a few dozen strikes before failure, and yet only one of those coins has been found in such pristine condition, making it all the more extraordinary. And when we step back and consider the broader implications, this coin story reminds us that in collecting, rarity, condition, and demand combine in unpredictable ways to create astronomical value, and it also reinforces the idea that even in our digital age, tangible artifacts like coins carry a unique kind of magic, embodying history, artistry, and chance in a way no virtual asset can. And so the 2016 D Lincoln cent with its unbelievable array of errors stands as both a cautionary tale for the mint and a beacon of hope for collectors, proof that treasures can still be hiding in the most ordinary places, waiting for someone with curiosity and knowledge to recognize them, and who knows, maybe right now in a pocket cash register, or forgotten coin jar. Another modern rarity is waiting to be discovered, but until then this coin reigns supreme, a $65 million marvel born of accident, preserved by luck, and elevated by the passion of those who see not just a penny, but a once-in-a-lifetime piece of history in their hands. So if this incredible tale has inspired you and made you believe that even the smallest things can hold the greatest surprises, make sure you like this video, share it with fellow treasure hunters, and subscribe so you never miss more jaw-dropping stories from the amazing world of rare coins. Last 1986 D1 cent USA coin, everyone to a fascinating and unbelievable journey into the incredible world of rare coins, where today we're going to explore the astonishing story of a 1986 D Lincoln cent that defied all odds to become one of the most valuable pennies in history, carrying a jaw-dropping value of $60 million, not because it is made of gold or platinum, but because it possesses such a breathtaking combination of minting errors, historical quirks, and improbable survival conditions that it has captured the imagination of collectors, historians, and investors across the globe. And to truly understand why this coin has reached such an unimaginable figure, we must first look back to the year 1986. A time when the United States Mint had fully transitioned the Lincoln cent from its traditional bronze composition of 95% copper to the newer copper-plated zinc format introduced in 1982, a change driven by rising copper prices and cost-cutting measures, but one that also brought a host of production challenges, because the new planchets, those small metal discs destined to become coins, were much more prone to certain types of errors, and the Denver Mint, marked by the D mint mark on this coin, was at that time operating at a feverish pace to churn out hundreds of millions of cents for circulation, and in the process, an extraordinary sequence of mishaps took place that would eventually give birth to this legendary specimen, starting with a dramatic double die obverse, where Abraham Lincoln's profile shows unmistakable doubling along the contours of his face, especially around the eyes, mouth, and beard, as well as in the lettering of "In God We Trust" and "Liberty," where each letter appears to have a ghost image slightly offset from the main strike. A telltale sign of a misalignment during the hubbing process when the master hub imparted its design to the working die more than once but at a slightly different angle, and while doubled. Dies are collectible on their own. This coin takes things to another level because the obverse also shows an extremely rare inverted mintmark error, with the D punched into the die upside down, something almost unheard of in the mid-1980s when mintmark punching was still done manually but under stricter quality control. Yet somehow this die slipped through and went into production. And then we have the composition anomaly, a transitional error that makes this coin even more remarkable. Because instead of being struck on the standard copper-plated zinc planchet of the time, metallurgical testing revealed that it was actually struck on a leftover bronze planchet from before 1982, an occurrence believed to be the result of an old blank somehow lingering in the mint storage bins and getting mixed into a batch of zinc planchets during a hurried production run. And bronze cents are heavier, weighing 3.11 grams instead of the zinc cents 2.5 grams, so when weighed, the difference is obvious to experienced collectors, and this alone would make the coin a 5-figure rarity, but in combination with the other errors, it becomes something bordering on mythical, and if that weren't enough, the coin also exhibits a broad strike error, caused when it was struck without the restraining collar that normally keeps the metal from spreading beyond the standard diameter, resulting in a slightly larger, flatter coin with a missing rim design on parts of the edge, which in turn is paired with a misaligned die strike where the obverse design is shifted just slightly off-center, causing Lincoln's portrait to sit closer to the rim on one side than the other, creating an immediately noticeable asymmetry, and turning to the reverse, we find yet another marvel, a partial blockage, where a previously struck coin got stuck to the reverse die and left an incuse mirror image of its design impressed over part of the Lincoln Memorial, distorting the columns and lettering in a way that looks surreal and yet is entirely the result of minting mechanics gone awry. And there's also a dramatic die crack stretching from the roof of the memorial down through the steps, forming a raised vein of metal that runs diagonally across the reverse like a scar, giving the coin an individual fingerprint that could be recognized instantly. And to pile on the improbability, there are several die chips, raised blobs of metal formed when small pieces of the die face broke away, that appear in the date and in the word America, slightly altering the shapes of those letters. And the remarkable thing is that all these errors occurred on the same coin, during a single striking, from a single set of dies, before the defective dies were caught and retired, which must have happened very quickly because no other example with the exact same combination of errors has ever been found. And the survival of this coin in near pristine condition is itself a miracle, because most cents enter circulation and begin accumulating scratches, dings, and wear almost immediately, yet this one somehow escaped into the hands of someone who either noticed it right away or unknowingly set it aside in a jar or collection, preserving its full original luster, sharp details, and minimal handling marks, and when it was eventually discovered decades later, weighed, and inspected under magnification, the realization hit that this was no ordinary oddity but something numismatically unprecedented, and once authenticated by leading grading services such as PCGS or NGC and encapsulated in a secure holder, it became the subject of intense discussion and speculation within the coin collecting community, making headlines not just in numismatic publications like Coin World and Numismatic News but also in mainstream news outlets that marveled at how a penny, the very coin so many people overlook or leave on the ground, could be worth more than a luxury yacht. And when it finally crossed the auction block, the room was electric, with deep-pocketed bidders from around the world competing to own this tangible piece of minting history, and the bidding climbed in rapid increments into the millions, with the final hammer price landing at an astonishing $60 million, a record not only for any 1980s-era cent but for almost any modern U.S. coin. And the story didn't end there, because its sale inspired a wave of renewed interest in searching through pocket change, bank rolls, and old collections for hidden treasures, with countless hobbyists dreaming of finding the next one, though experts agree that the odds of another coin surfacing with this exact set of errors, in this exact condition, are virtually zero, cementing its status as unique. And in numismatics, uniqueness is the ultimate driver of value, because no matter how wealthy a collector is, they cannot own such a coin unless the current owner chooses to sell, giving it a level of exclusivity that borders on mythical, and beyond its market value. This 1986 D cent has taken on a symbolic meaning, representing the idea that even the smallest, most overlooked objects can hold unimaginable worth if only we take the time to look closely. A concept that resonates not just with coin collectors but with anyone who has ever dreamed of stumbling across something extraordinary in the most ordinary of places, and the technical fascination continues as experts study the coin to understand exactly how such a perfect storm of minting mistakes could have occurred in an era when quality control procedures were already sophisticated, leading to theories ranging from a rushed production schedule that allowed leftover bronze planchets and mispunched mint marks to slip through, to the possibility that human oversight in die preparation allowed the double die, inverted mint mark, and other anomalies to align on the same die pair. And whatever the exact cause, the result is a one-of-a-kind marvel that blends history, artistry, technology, and sheer chance into a single coppery disc. And for collectors who view coins not just as monetary instruments but as miniature works of history and art, the 1986 D $60 million cent is nothing short of a masterpiece, a reminder that treasures can hide in plain sight, waiting for the right person with the right knowledge to recognize them. And so this coin stands not only as a record-setting auction prize but as a beacon of hope and excitement in the hobby. Proof that the thrill of discovery is still alive and well in the age of mass production. So if hearing about this incredible penny has sparked your curiosity and made you see your pocket change in a new light, don't forget to like this video, share it with friends who love a good treasure hunt, and subscribe for more amazing stories from the wild and wonderful world of rare coins.